Welcome to the Villa Park podcast. No Rich Sutherland this week, so unfortunately you've got to deal with me, Kevin, hosting. But I'm lucky to have with me Mr. Fowler legend himself, George. George, how you doing, mate?
Hello, Kev. Yeah, all good here. Thanks, mate. How you doing?
All good, mate. All good. Yeah. So hold my hand tonight. My first time hosting, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Plenty to keep us busy in terms of talking about the Villa always, although it's not probably quite as busy this week as we would have liked. In terms of some possible ins, but we can talk about that during the show, I'm sure. So, yeah, George, thoughts on Villa this week? Been a bit quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has a little bit, mate. And I guess quiet's normally not too bad, is it? After a win last week, you normally find it's like the week before. It wasn't quiet, was it? After we lost to Bournemouth, it was full on week long meltdown. So I'll take a quiet week any day of the week. I'll take a quiet week anytime.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think sometimes we want a bit more, don't we? Sometimes Villa fans, you've only got to see what other clubs are doing. Nottingham Forest being one. So yeah, I think people are talking about obviously all of the all of the COVID cost of COVID in terms of when everyone was obviously given money. You've got all the energy prices. I reckon I know what's causing it. It's all going to Nottingham Forest owners by the looks of it. Because
yeah, it would appear so, mate, wouldn't it? They're spending a few quid.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, but it's not a Nottingham Forest podcast, so we'll jump in with the Villa. So Villa news this week. Well, obviously the big news is still the injury to Mr. Carlos and what we're going to do about that. There's been some good news for Mr. Carlos. I don't know if you noticed, but he's had his operation.
Oh, I didn't see this. Oh, how's it gone?
Yeah, well, successful by all accounts. He's got a thumbs up there, so that looks pretty good.
Oh,
but yeah, but look, that leaves us obviously with the whole situation we've been discussing quite a lot, which is, are we going to bring someone in? And if we do, who's it going to be? What kind of profile is it going to be? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know we discussed this last week, didn't we? And I wasn't sure we would do anything. And I'm still not sure we're going to do anything because, I mean, at the end of the day, who's really going to be selling their first choice centre-backs this late in the window now? I mean, I think the best we're going to be looking for really is someone that maybe isn't getting a game somewhere, or someone that's looking to try and get into the World Cup squad of a country. And basically, yeah, someone that's not playing. And hopefully we can pull a gem out of the bag. But I'm not 100% sure we're going to get what we want this time, mate.
Yeah, and is that going to get us any further up the league if we don't replace someone of the right kind of quality and the similar sort of ilk? Is that going to get us where we need to get to?
Well, sorry, I'll say, just give me a second, mate. The next door dog's barking. Let me just shut the window a sec.
George has got dog issues. I've got dog issues. My dog, you might be able to hear in the background, is going mental. But listen, they're obviously got a lot to say about the Villa, so that's why they're speaking up. So yeah, well, look, last week Mr. Mings came back in, didn't he? And I think we can all agree he did a pretty good job. So it looks like now it's someone to partner Mings, would you say?
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, Mings is going to be the leader as he has been for the last few years. I'm sure Carlos was primed to take that position, but unfortunately, after what's happened, we've now lost him for probably the season. Yeah. So I would suggest it will be back to Mings and Konza because they're tried and tested. All right, it's been good, it's been bad, but when it was good, it worked fine. We had a good season the year before last, finished 11th. Mings and Konza both did well together. I'm not sure whether Chambers will start or not. I mean, I've predicted him to start both the last two games and he hasn't. So I'm going to go with Konza as he started the first game. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, well, listen, we'll come on to our lineups in a bit because I know we've both done our lineups, so we can talk about that. The main links we've had to replace Carlos, there's been a few going around. There's a guy that West Ham are after. Is it Attila Zalai? I can't even say his name, but can you... If you give my dog there, he's going off his head. There's a great comment actually come up. I'll put it on there, but I think it's probably the most apt comment we've ever had. Nick says we could do more biting midfield. Can we get the dogs in?
Oh, mine's the next door one. Mine's locked in tonight. It's bloody next door kicking off.
Yeah, this is the pros and cons of live broadcast. But here we are. Yeah, so we've been linked to him. We've also been linked quite heavily to a guy called Duja Kaletakar, I think his name is, who is he's a centre half. He's quite highly rated. So, yeah, I think I think he's got the physical size we'll be looking for. But we're also linked with people like Rob Holding, who I think almost in unanimity, Villa fans would probably be a bit disillusioned about if we obviously had him. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, Holding obviously not a stellar name by any means, but I must admit what's he been at Arsenal now, 3-4 seasons, and he's always had his fair share of games there since he signed. So I don't think he's no mug, but I think when we've got Chambers, we've got Hawes, we've kind of got that standard of defender already, I would say. So I would say if we're going to bother trying to replace Carlos, it's got to be someone close to that sort of quality.
I think it has to be. I mean, look, I was saying this in previous pods, and look, I know I'm probably not the only person to say it, but I've seen a few other outlets making the same point this week as well. Is that if you want to be further up the league, then and you only add Kamara to that team, are you realistically going to get further up the league? Sure, you can talk about coaching. Absolutely, you can, and a good coach will get more out of players. And sure, you can say that some of those players were in a team that actually looked like we're going to finish a lot higher than 11th. That season we finished 11th and faded away a bit.
Away at the end, didn't we?
Yeah, but we did have the powers of Jack Grealish obviously to help with that, and that was quite a significant addition, in terms of the team that season. So, if you think we want to try and do what we're doing, we're talking about it as a club. The narrative is very clear. Let's not forget this, George. The narrative is we're going for Europe. 14th isn't good enough. It needs to be better. So, do you think a team which only adds Kamara as a starter currently is going to have any chance of finishing the top 10?
Well, do you know what? Think like after Smith got sacked, right? Gerrard's had the team last year, and going on what Gerrard done, we would have finished 9th. So, take a full season of Gerrard under the form when he first come in. It's a top half finish, isn't it? So I wouldn't say it was out of the question, mate.
Yeah, but I think I'm looking at it quite realistically. For that to happen, do you not agree that it all has to go our way? We have to have, injuries need to not be bad, and we've already had in our second game of the season our main defender in terms of what seemed to be like the number one choice, crocked probably for the season. So you're hoping you get no more big injuries. What you're also hoping that players are on form for the whole season. You're also hoping other teams around us aren't also going to push on. So I think there's a lot of variables there, George. Don't you reckon that need to be our way for us to finish up there?
Yeah, of course there is, and I'm sure if you've looked at like West Ham and Leicester and Brighton, teams like that over the last few years, they'd have said the same, and it has gone their way. I mean, it's luck of the draw, but I think we've got into a position over the last couple of years when we've been doing so much business, and the other clubs have not done so much, and it seemed like it was Villa in the transfer window, like day after day after day, and the whole country's just watching Villa sign players. Obviously, this year it started. This summer it started the same again, but obviously we've done our bits, didn't we, in the first couple of weeks. And then we've spent the last couple of months, and now everyone else is doing theirs. So, it's everyone's got a bit of money, haven't they? I mean, like you say, the aim can be Europe, the target can be Europe, but there's another bloody 5 or 6 teams that want Europe as well. So it's no God-given right that we're going to get it. You've just got to, do your best and hope that your players turn it on for you.
Are we doing enough though? Do you think we're being aggressive enough in terms of the additions to the team to give ourselves the best chance? If you think about anything in life, if you want something and you say you want it, you've got to give it all you've got. Are we doing that? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, again, like I just said, first week of the transfer window, I think we would have all said, yes, we are. But all of a sudden then when it goes a bit quiet and the other teams start doing their bits, all of a sudden our work doesn't look so impressive, does it? I mean, I'm sure we're still out there looking and trying to sign players, but the later this transfer window goes, the harder it gets to sign these players. People aren't just going to just take the money and Villa want it, we're going to sell him. It's a tough old jungle out there.
It is, unless you're prepared to throw silly cash at it, of course. But yeah. I get it. I just worry that there's going to be a situation where if we don't have everything clicking in place like we want it to, potentially going to get a few months down the line and then think, God, I wish we'd bought. People when we had the chance to buy someone. And if you don't get what you need in the January market, it's not the best market, is it, mate, to shop in?
No, I mean January's normally the panic sets in, doesn't it? Teams that are not doing as well as they should. Prices go up again because they know that you need the players and you're desperate. But I don't know what to say on it. I mean, everyone wants to sign the best players, don't they? And I'm no different, but we'll get who we get. I'm sure Gerrard's banging on the door every day, trying to get Perslow and Langer to sort of open the purse strings. But let's face it, we have spent a fair bit of money, mate, and the wage bill's creeping up, which is something that's starting to concern me. I'm not sure we've just got an open checkbook now and we can just keep buying players.
Well, on that note, they have said quite clearly we do need to move players out. Obviously, some have gone. You know, whether it's alone with someone like a Philogene Bidace, whether it's the likes of Target going out, Kessel Hayden's gone on loan. This week, obviously, there's talk that Hawes. I think it's pretty much close to being done. Keenan Davis has obviously gone there as well. So we're moving a few out, but another man who's been strongly linked this week, obviously hasn't made either of the two squads so far for the first 2 games of the season, is Mr. Morgan Sanson. So what's your thoughts on Sanson? Do you think he's ever been given a chance?
Do you know what? It's been a bit of a shame since he come. I mean, when I've seen him, he doesn't look too bad, but at the same time, he doesn't look too good. He just looks like a steady Eddie in there. And you know, he's had a few chances. He's not had a sustained run in the team, but I can't honestly put my hand on my heart and say when he's come in, he has really grabbed the shirt and says, "Listen, I must start the next game." I mean, he looks determined. He looks up for it, but you know, he hasn't had that standout moment that sort of says, you know, pick me, I'm going to be a mainstay. And you know, I don't know how you feel about that, mate, but I think we've got probably better or at least as good options already.
I think you've got to trust successive management now, haven't you? Like there's been Dean Smith and, of course, Stevie G, and they've not played him anywhere near the amount of times that we thought someone of his ilk, someone certainly of his YouTube highlights. I saw someone posted him on Twitter the other day. He looks like he's the best player in the world, you know, which I'm sure we all do if we take like a 2-minute clip of our best moments of our football careers. But there's got to be something in that. And this is the thing I think some when Villa fans say, I don't know why he's not playing Sanson. I get the frustration because you see him have a glimpse of like magic or do an amazing piece of control or burst past someone and you think, hey, there's someone there. I remember seeing him in it was the end of the Man United game pre-season and he looked like he had a bit about him, a bit of impetus. And yet I look at it and think, what benefit has Gerrard got in not playing him? Gerrard doesn't want to lose his job. Gerrard wants to finish high up the league. Clearly there's something not right for him. So
sometimes it just doesn't work out, mate, does it? And our history with French players says it all. I just think this is going to be another one that doesn't work out, and we'll probably see him move on elsewhere, and he'll smash it. But it's just the way it seems to go with Villa and the French players.
Well, he's been linked strongly with Besiktas this week, so that's an interesting one if that happens. And it seems like Turkey seems to be the place where all our players go because I think Traore has been linked as well somewhere in Turkey. Obviously, Trezeguet's gone.
Trezeguet,
yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But one interesting link we had this week, I don't know how much you know about him, but we've been strongly linked with Emil Forsberg, the Swedish international.
Never heard of him.
Well, from what I know about him, I think he's got over 70 caps for Sweden. I've seen him play a few times. He looks like a pretty handy player. He's an attacking midfielder, so it would make sense if Sanson moved out. Luiz is going to sign a new contract, so we think that's going to happen. So if Sanson goes out, Chukwuemeka's obviously gone out. There would be, you'd think, room to bring someone in. And yeah, Mr. Forsberg here.
Who's he play for, mate?
He plays for Leipzig. He's a very, very experienced player. He's got pretty much 1 in 4, 200 appearances. Well, 1 in 5, 200 appearances and 40 goals for RB Leipzig. Had pretty much 1 in 3 for Malmo before that. 74 caps for Sweden and 17 goals. So yeah, he's he's got a good pedigree.
Yeah, as I say, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit everyone and say I know all about this player. I don't, but we've got a good history with the Scandinavian players, and we've also got we've got Robin Olsen in there, so you've got a bit of familiarity, which is what we seem to be doing this year with the transfers. Everyone seems to have a relationship with someone else in the squad.
Yeah, don't forget Augustinsson as well. He's a
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I mean, the one thing I'd say about it is that he'll be 31 in October, so he's not young, and obviously seems to fit that profile, doesn't it? We seem like we've brought in a slightly older profile of player, haven't we, in the last couple of windows?
Definitely. I mean, that we've definitely gone away from what the idea was when we first got promoted. It was all 23s, wasn't it, around that sort of age, and increase the quality and increase the sell-on value, which I think was going reasonably well until Jack went, and then we now seem to have even gone the other way, don't we, in trying to buy experienced and proven. But unfortunately, with experienced and proven, it costs you a lot more money and wages, doesn't it? And that's where my concern lies. So I think you've got to sit somewhere in the middle, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's a transition of the club as well, isn't it? When you come back to the Premier League, we did a Fulham, we did what a Forest are doing now, or the Forest are doing it on steroids, where you bring in a lot of bodies, and you bring in bodies that aren't maybe that proven. Forest seem to be buying people that also aren't that proven, but even spending way more money than we were on them. But and then of course, you transition that and getting slightly better quality. But we did have probably a fairly young team in some areas. So the likes of Adina at 28, obviously Coutinho at pushing 30, now turned 30. And Olsen, obviously, he's above 30. This profile of players, obviously, is Danny Ings is another one who's a bit older, a bit wiser. And I think you need that level of experience, obviously, in Premier League football. So I wouldn't be too averse to someone like Emil Forsberg coming in. It's not like it used to be back in the day, I think. If some players now at 30, that's your peak, isn't it, really? So I know not everybody is a Ronaldo in terms of that longevity, or an Ibrahimovic, but would you be concerned about getting someone in age 30, nearly 31 for a couple of years if they could do a job?
No, mate. Age is nothing, but it's just a number, really. I mean, a year or two, what does it really hurt? If the guy's good enough and he plays well in a Villa shirt, then I'll obviously back him, and I'm sure you would as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other links you've heard about? Anyone else kind of interest to you?
Not really, mate. At the moment, it's all gone very quiet. Like I say, we done it all early on, didn't we? And there was a lot of links back then, but since then, I haven't heard anything, to be honest, mate. I think Gerrard was generally quite satisfied. It was just that talk of the number 8, wasn't it? But otherwise, I think our business was done. But now with the Carlos injury, that could all change again.
Well, let's say watch this space. I do think we'll bring in a replacement for Carlos Soman. And I do think if Sanson goes, I do think we'll bring in a number 8 as well. So
I suppose, we lost Sanson, and if Sanson goes, then we lost Carney, didn't we? So there's definitely a hole in the midfield, maybe 2.
Yeah, and if obviously Trez and Traore as well, Trez is gone, Traore goes, Philogene Bidace goes, then are you maybe a bit short in a wide area possibly? If Buendia or Coutinho or Bailey got injured, El Ghazi, I imagine, will probably go. He's not been anywhere near the squad, so
I haven't heard any interest in him whatsoever.
No, that's the downside of when a loan doesn't work out. And obviously Benitez brought him in. Well, we think Benitez brought him in, and all of a sudden he's gone within a couple of days. And Lampard obviously clearly didn't fancy him. And if players aren't getting time, their stock falls, doesn't it? I think it's important for loan players to play. Don't you think?
Yeah, of course it is, mate. It's like he scored 10 goals for us the year before that, but time moves very quickly in football, and it becomes a what have you done for me lately kind of story, doesn't it? If they've not been around for a few months, then all of a sudden they become shit in people's eyes. But I think. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, do you think you would have got 15 million for Target if you'd not had that good half a season at Newcastle?
Yeah, quite possibly, mate. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I'd say El Ghazi would have fetched a bit. And I'd say now he'll be another one that we just let go on a free, wouldn't we? We do this all the time. The amount of players we sign and eventually just let them run their contract down, or we end up paying them to go. I mean, it's shoddy business, really.
It is. I still think, I'm not sure what his contract situation is like, but, maybe you could even give him a loan if you were desperate. I don't know when his contract's going to expire, so that might be absolutely, not even an option. But if you could get a little bit of value out of him, otherwise, I think we need to free up the wages to bring someone in.
Yeah, agreed, mate.
Well, listen, let's move on to onto Palace. In terms of talking about them, what's your views on Palace so far this season, mate?
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of Palace. To be fair, I do think they're a really good side. I mean, obviously, the first game they lost the first game to Arsenal, didn't they? Sort of Arsenal looking great this year, so I don't think that was no disgrace really. I've caught bits of that game, and they didn't look too bad, but Arsenal, were the better side. And then, of course, last Monday they got a fantastic 1-1 draw at Anfield, which can't be scoffed at. Not many teams are getting results against Liverpool these days. Yeah, I think Palace are a good side, good, strong, physical side. They've got a lot of good pace on the wings. A lot of youth now with like the Ezes and the Elises, 2 players I really like. You've got a banging form, Wilfried Zaha. So yeah, I think it'd be a tough game for us, mate, Saturday.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no doubt about that. I think in the first game of the season, Arsenal, I think they actually had more possession. You might expect that at home, but more and same number of shots, 10 shots each. So I certainly think Palace are a decent size. We talk on this pod quite a bit about the profile of sometimes the players they've got in terms of being quite a physical team. I don't think it's massive in terms of the difference, but there was a good article by Greg Evans from The Athletic today. I put a tweet out about it, but how Villa are one of the smaller squads in the Premier League in terms of height. I think we're 15th out of 20 in terms of.
That doesn't shock me at all, that.
Yeah, which says how important Mings must be then, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah. We get bullied far too often for my liking. And he's one of the bigger boys in the team. So saying that, he gets bullied on his day as well, but also he does the same to other players.
Yeah, he does. I think he's becoming a necessity now. If you're thinking that about that, and obviously we lost Carlos, but Palace I think is 7th in terms of height profile, so clearly a bit more physical than us. I certainly think midfield wise they're way more physical than our midfield. So
Yeah,
it's
agreed, mate.
It's going to be a tough battle, isn't it, mate? It's going to be a tough battle.
It was funny, like last year though, the game at Villa Park towards the end of the season. I mean, they nicked a draw late on, but for large parts of the game, they were the better side. I was there, and they were really, really good in possession, better than what I thought. And along with the physicality, the bigger and stronger than us, I sort of did think to myself, if they carry on like they are, they're going to end up, they're going to end up a really good side.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously we got the win at Selhurst, didn't we, last year, and we played very well that day, and that kind of went against everything I've just said. We were a lot smaller and a sort of a lot what's the word? I don't know. We just sort of played a different game, and we played well last year at Palace. But yeah, I think it'd be a tough game, Kev. What are you saying on it?
Yeah, I do remember. Obviously, we beat Brighton, didn't we, in Stevie's first game, and beat Palace in the second game. And I think he was trying to be a bit more solid, and therefore,
that's right. We were narrow, weren't we? Yeah, narrowed up.
It worked well, didn't it? And actually, they scored right at the end of that game, so it looked like it was going to be quite comfortable. It would look like it was going to be 2-0 wins in a row against two decent outfits in Brighton and Palace. Yeah. I don't know, with Villa at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if we beat them 3-0. I wouldn't be surprised if we lost 3-0. That's honestly how I feel about it. I think if we click like we did, look at Leeds last year or Southampton last year. If we click, I think we're a fine team when it all works well. And we've got some real potent weapons, but when we don't click, it's a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. And it's the same, really. Anywhere between about 8th and 14th or 15th of last year, we're all much of a much. We're all inconsistent sides. One week superb, next week shit, and I'm not sure it's going to be far too different this season. I mean, Palace went on a lot of bad runs as well last year. So, we're not alone.
Yeah, I just worry a little bit about our ability to grind out results. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then we got one last week, didn't we? I mean, we made it very difficult for ourselves in the end, but at least we did hold on and not capitulate and concede another one at the end. So, we're on the right track with a little bit of luck, mate.
Well, let's go into our predicted lineup. So, George, let's get yours up, mate. Let's have a little look at this. So, do you want to talk us through your lineup there?
Yeah, well, obviously, the obvious one is Carlos, who's lost for the season, which has broken all our hearts, considering we all predicted to be player of the season. So that one's gone down the pan. So I've decided that Ezri Konsa will come back in, just because that's a more tried and tested partnership than Mings and Chambers. The only other change I've made, and it's harsh really, because Danny Ings scored the goal last week and he had a really good game, but I find that we tend to play the two strikers more just at home, and we sort of try and go for a bit more pace and counter away from home. So that's why I've gone for Bailey and Buendia instead of Coutinho. And the rest of the central midfield just the same as last week.
Yeah, I think I can see absolutely the reasons why you'd do that. I think that front three on paper looks like it could cause some problems, doesn't it? Buendia, Watkins, and Bailey absolutely does. So if it clicks, and you are right, you'll probably expect to have a bit less of the ball and maybe obviously counter attack it a bit more. Midfield, I noticed that you didn't seem to make many changes there, did you? I think it was the same midfield, wasn't it? Ramsey, McGinn, and obviously Kamara.
We spent a couple of weeks sort of having a pop at McGinn and Ramsey, or me especially, but I thought they were both very good last week, and I think I said it, didn't I? I think the balance with Kamara in there allows them to sort of play with a bit more freedom, and now their mistakes are not going to be punished quite as often as they were last year, because you've got Kamara behind them sweeping up and actually passing the balls when them two often lose the ball.
Yeah, well, look, I think the lineup again is, I don't think it picks itself that clearly at all. I'll pop mine up. I've got a similar team to you, except I went for Mings and Chambers. Yeah, I think Chambers is high. I mean, I know Konsa's pretty big as well, but I think I don't know. I think it's a toss up between those two. Yeah. I actually went for Louise instead of Ramsey. I think that he's quite streetwise, isn't he, Louise? And he
looks after the ball a bit better, doesn't he?
Yeah, battles a bit. So that I had him in for Ramsey, and I kept actually Watkins and Ings together, but I put Watkins out, maybe playing as a wide forward, and I brought Buendia in for Coutinho.
Oh, okay, mate. Yeah, you could well be right yourself. I'm not too sure. We'll see what Stevie G decides on Saturday, mate.
Interesting, and neither of us put Coutinho in.
No, I think he's just gone off the boil a little bit, hasn't he? He just doesn't quite look where he was last year. I mean, I think he's been a bit of an inconsistent player throughout his career. Brilliant player on his day, as we've seen. But when it's not his day, he can sort of really disappear into the shade. And Buendia, I think Buendia, he's been knocking on the door for a while now, and he's fantastic cameo last week, and I think he deserves a start this week. But if he doesn't start, it's not the end of the world, because, like I said, I think nowadays the starters and the subs, it's going to become less and less important. I think they've all got their role to play.
Yeah, well, there he is, the main man. Everyone's talking about him. And I'd be really surprised if he doesn't start. I mean, Coutinho obviously had a bit of a knock. It might be cramped, whatever. But I think the impact that Buendia had when he came on, he was a bright spot, wasn't he?
He played really well, mate. Yeah, he just looked bang up for it. But he looked very determined. You could see him on the sidelines, just looked determined, didn't he? He was like, I'm not going to let this chance pass me by today, and I'm going to make something happen. And he did.
Yeah, there's also a talk, obviously, well, you'd think it'd be a good idea potentially with a team like Palace away to be a bit more solid. And interesting actual comment here from Nick saying he considered Tim Irigbunam alongside Kamara at the base. What do you think about that as an option? And having McGinn, Ramsey and Buendia higher?
I quite like it, mate, to be fair. I do quite like the 2 6s. We're not used to seeing that at Villa, are we? We're used to getting bullied and overrunning midfield all the time. Doing what your man says there might just give us a bit of a base to work on and a much more solid look about us.
Yeah, I wouldn't be actually too upset basically if that was in the team. I think it's a good shout. I think that it would be a bit more solid, wouldn't it? And which I think is quite important for us, to have that. Yeah. You'd rather get a draw, wouldn't you? In terms of going to London when potentially it's going to be a tricky trip. We're not always the best, are we, in London? So I think it's time to move on to becoming one of my favourite parts of the show. This, it's the stat man. Sorry about that. Singing last week, singing this week. I'm probably going to start complaining. George, Statman George, let's look at some of your interesting stats that you've got together for this. Talk us through this, mate.
Yeah, just having a little scroll about today. I'll have to give a bit of credit to I think it's called Aston Villa Stato on Twitter, because otherwise he's going to see me nicking a few of his stats. But I did take one off him this morning. Just the Villa have lost 16 of the last 22 trips to London. It was a stat that didn't shock me, to be honest, because I've been at most of these games and we have got a horrendous record there, mate. And it's funny enough, the only time we pulled that together in London was the year that we couldn't go to the games. I think we won one at Arsenal, one at Spurs, one at Fulham. But so you take them 3 away, you think of the trips that our fans have had to London. It's been miserable, mate, for a long, long time. Yeah,
I know George, by the way, everyone. I know George sounds like he's a Crystal Palace fan, but he's not. He's not come to do the rival view of the show. He's a bona fide grade A Villa fan. Yeah, mate, you're right. Absolutely right. I've been to see Villa in London a few times and never seen us win. Even losing to Championship Fulham in the Cup, I went to that game.
Oh yeah, I was there as well.
Yeah, and you're right. That's another thing. Obviously, it's slightly old news now, but the amount of great performances that Villa fans didn't actually see live, with be it obviously the Liverpool 7-2, but that away 3-0 win at Arsenal was probably one of my favourite performances we've had in the last few years. Barkley, Watkins, Grealish marauding forward, it should have been way more than 3-0. So, yeah. So, okay, well, that's obviously an interesting stat. So, basically, going to London, we are 75% of the time pretty much we're losing, aren't we?
Yeah, unfortunately so, but there's always got to be a time for that to change. And obviously we did pick up the 3 points at Palace last year. And and obviously we've never ever won back-to-back games there at Selhurst Park. So hopefully this is going to be a big first again for us.
Well, I think that even if we got a draw, I think at the weekend, I think that would be a decent result. I think, look, you want to try and win every game, but you think about that stat about we're not winning in London, we're losing that amount of games. There's a big difference, I think, as a team if you all of a sudden turn 5 of your losses into draws, and a couple of draws into wins, and all of a sudden you've added yourself.
A bit better, doesn't it?
Well, what would an extra 10, 12 points do on you? I mean, that could be the difference between finishing in Europe and finishing 11th. So,
yeah, it's true, mate. The amount of times we've found a way to lose those games in London as well, like when you've been sat there thinking 1-0 up, lose 2 goals in the last 5-10 minutes and stuff like that, just fall apart. I never forget the one. Do you remember? It's years ago now when we were 4-1 up at Spurs on the Monday night.
Oh, mate.
Oh, my God.
I still have nightmares about that. I remember, I think it was about 2007, 8
or 9 or something, was it?
Yeah. And didn't Marlon Harewood, basically went to tackle someone, but he basically jumped on their back, didn't he, in the box? Yeah. And
didn't... just fell apart after that.
Yunus Kabul score as well, like an absolute
Kabul, yeah, Robbie Keane.
Yeah.
And it was just one of them. It was like the Alamo coming at us. It felt like it was going to happen last week in the last 5 minutes. It was just the second they got one, Villa just done a Villa and just could not withstand the oncoming pressure.
Yeah, I remember we did that against Leicester. I think about midnight. I think we were 4-1 up again, and it finished
4-4 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you think you're 4-1 up with 10 minutes to go, you're going to be all right, but no, not down Villa Park. I got Villa.
You're never safe, mate. Never ever safe.
Yeah. So what do you reckon then for the weekend? What's your prediction, mate?
Oh, do you know, I hadn't even thought about this yet. Like you just said there, I'd probably take a point as well, just because it's a tough place to go. Hard to really base it on anything at the moment, isn't it? Because it's only early on and we've both only played a couple of games. But yeah, I could see a draw here, mate. I'd go got 1-1.
1-1. Who's scoring?
Who's going to score? Who's going to score? Same as last week. Buendia.
Okay.
What you
I'm
saying?
going to go. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Villa away win, consecutive 2-1 away wins in London against Palace, and I'm going to say that Watkins will score, and I think that John McGinn will score again. Captain will step up. He
scored a beauty there last season, didn't he?
Oh God, the celebration with the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
For me, I mean, more importantly, look, results obviously everything, but I think Villa fans just want to see a performance that makes us think that, you know what, we've got some hope this season. I think it's important, isn't it? I think it's important. What do you reckon?
Oh, of course it is, mate. I mean, it'd be just nice to actually control a game. It's very rare. Like even when we win, it's always a scrape, isn't it, or a nervy finish. It'd just be nice to dominate a match. I mean, every now and again we did it. I think last year. But then the shitty teams, when it the Norwiches, I think we give them a bit of a going over at their place. Leeds, give them a good hiding at Leeds. But it's just, we've always lacked control in games. It's just nice to see us put our foot on the ball and look like we're the better team on the day. Yeah,
it's a tricky one, isn't it? I felt at the start of the season, the pre-season, I felt that we were getting results, weren't we? I mean, all of the games we won, except obviously for the Man United game, and we came back from 2-0 down in torrential rain to get a 2-2 draw. We didn't know what was going to happen against Brighton and Brentford for Man United, so that was actually quite a bad result.
That United game, Kev. You remember when he made all the first lot of subs? I know it's a few weeks ago now, but then I think we scored the first one, and we suddenly looked a different team. But then he changed it again. He changed them all again about 75 minutes. But I think if he'd have left that second lot on, we would have gone on and won that comfortably because we would just took over. That was what everything I was looking for, a bit of control.
Well, it was the Leon Bailey show, wasn't it? Really, it was.
Yeah.
He really made a difference, and I do think that I think it's a good shout you putting him in your predicted lineup because I think if he can stay fit, he could be a real weapon on particularly on the road. I think this season on the break.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, traditionally Villa were always a counter-attacking side away from home. For some reason, in the last few years, we seem to have gone away from that, and it hasn't really served us very well. But we lack pace in the team generally. So Bailey's obviously going to be the outlet, isn't he? When we drop a little bit deeper, and then the long balls of Mings or Chambers or whatever can set Bailey away, and hopefully the other lads can feed off the scraps if there are any, or Bailey can do it himself.
Yeah, and you know what? The more I'm thinking about Nick's suggestion earlier, obviously from putting Iribunum in the midfield, I think that's the more and more I think about it, actually, I think a clean sheet. I probably might actually be happy with a 0-0 draw than any of a result because obviously 4-0 would be better for Villa, but you know what I mean. Like actually going away from home, keeping it solid. I think it's just important. You need to build that confidence in your defence, don't you? And I think we've been a little bit porous. We've looked a bit weak, haven't we, from crosses? You a bit worried about Palace's physical presence for set pieces?
Yeah, definitely. They're one of the strongest teams there are. But I'm not sure where this has crept into our game all of a sudden. We just look, both games so far this year, we just look very shaky and nervous. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but we can handle it on our day. But maybe it's just a concentration issue. Yeah,
I mean, look, they've got a decent sized profile, haven't they? They're also quite streetwise, I think. I remember watching Anderson the other night getting the new Liverpool guy sent off.
Yeah, he did give him a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, he did give him a little bit. Yeah, but there's a great highlights video of basically all the times he winds him up. It's like a 2-minute video, and he just keeps going up to him and giving him little nudges. And in the end, he obviously reacts. Absolute masterclass of centre half performance from a team. Obviously,
shithousery.
It was perfect, mate. It's something I think sometimes we need a bit more of that ourselves. Obviously, we're gonna do a full-on Palace discussion tomorrow. I think we've got a Palace fan coming on tomorrow night, so there'll be an extra episode. Everyone, as a reminder, obviously, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the show. We're on all the usual channels, Facebook, Twitter. So follow us, give us a like, give us a subscribe. That'd be great. And yeah, we've got a Palace one tomorrow night. I'm sure there'll be a bit of talk about it. But while I've got you, George, what's your thoughts on Eze? Looks like a right player, doesn't he? Him and Zaha linking up together.
Yeah, Eze's a quality little player, and one of my best mates is a QPR fan, and he's been raving about him for about 2-3 years before Palace signed him. But there was talk of us going in at the time, wasn't there? But we didn't. And he's come off the back of a really bad injury. But again, he was really good before he got the injury, and he's come back and he looks just as good now. Yeah, quality little player. And Zaha, Zaha's he's very, he gets a lot of stick, doesn't he? Because he winds everyone up. But he's a pretty consistent player, isn't he? He doesn't have many off days. He's carried Palace on his back now for about 6-7 years. So good player, mate. To be fair.
Yeah, when Elise comes back as well, I think he's a bit of a player, isn't he, as well? And
another one we should have took. We were in for him as well.
Yeah, look, I certainly don't think there's not weaknesses there. Obviously, Anderson is a good player, I think, but obviously he got relegated previously with Fulham.
Is he at Fulham? That's the same guy, right?
Yeah. Klein, Klein's a good defender, but obviously was in the wilderness at Liverpool for a few years. He's playing now. Jordan Ayew, we know, isn't, amazing. Schlupp was obviously not good enough for Leicester. So I think they've got a really good, functional, hardworking team, but it's certainly got its weaknesses that we just need to exploit, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they lost Conor Gallagher back to Chelsea, didn't they? And he scored a fair few for them and created a lot of chances last year. So I'm not quite sure who's playing in his position now, but maybe there's a little weakness in midfield that wasn't there. That they didn't have last year. So let's go for it.
Yeah, well, listen, George, mate, it's been great to chat to you. Loving your stats as always, and fingers crossed for a good, positive performance. I think that's the key thing for me, mate. Performance, put a good performance in, and hopefully the results will come.
Yep, 100%, mate. I hear that.
Lovely, mate. Catch you on the other side. Don't forget, everybody, we'll follow the Villa. See you next time, everyone. Don't forget tomorrow night.